When I was dating my other guy, a different reality show reached out and asked me to do that show, and I was dating him, and he told me to do it.
Your boyfriend told you to go on a dating reality TV show?
Yep.
Am I the only one who's bored with this season? Seriously, I am, and I don't know how long it's going to take me to go through the whole season. And watching it and watching the couples that are going through this experiment makes you question why production actually cast them. This conversation between Patrick and, Casey is shocking to say the least, because the idea that this woman is sitting there and telling him that her ex-boyfriend told her to sign up for a dating show just so she could go and get herself some clout. And then he said you could have her back if you wanted to. And for her to think this is the best thing to say on TV makes me question her motives. Is she there just to get the clout, as her ex said, or is she there for a connection? I know Patrick's first choice went home. Maybe this should have been a sign for him to go home, unless he was talked into proposing to this woman, which seriously makes me question him. And then Nick, the audacity to sit next to Brennan and say that, knowing that they're dating the same girl and knowing that he's managed to get this girl to leave Brennan, doesn't make sense. But anyway, I digress. Hey there, thanks for stopping by to go, Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love is Blind, Season 9, Episode 4. We have the reveal for Calibra and Edmund. And for me, this man is very immature to some extent. Something happened to him and he is in this space. The way he's very hyper and bouncing off the walls is just a bit off-putting. And I'm surprised she didn't sort of see it as a red flag. She seemed to really like it. I said this in a previous review that I feel like she's sort of taking on the role of social worker for this man. Personally, I need Calibra to sort of disengage. I needed to stop seeing this man as a project and actually see him for the man that he is. Because it seems her social worker mindset is thinking, I'm going to fix this man, I'm going to make him the perfect husband that I need. And yet, emotionally, he doesn't seem to possess the intelligence that she needs. His behaviors, licking the floor, kissing the floor, jumping up and down, I don't think that's appropriate for what she is looking for. I think she is miles ahead of what he is willing to offer her. So it might be them just sort of being friends, and that's it. He was very excitable, very excitable. He gave her a letter that he said he had written for her. Hopefully they are able to find common ground, but I don't think so. We then get to see Nick on his date. He's on a date with Katie, and for me, I don't know. They spoke about how to resolve conflict. They had this sort of mini little tiff that they had, and they spoke about religion. And she said she's not religious at the moment because when her mom was sick, she saw all the struggles her mom went through when she was battling cancer, and so she questioned God and how He could allow someone to go through that. And this is why she doesn't, or she isn't religious. That's the impression she gave. And he took it for that because he was saying he's very religious. And so for him to then go on a date with Annie, and Annie has been saying she wants validation. She was questioning why he wasn't sure about his connection with her and why he was being indecisive. They spoke about trust issues, and she brought up the fact that she opened her boyfriend's phone and she found out things that she didn't expect to find there. He was very pompous and said, if you open my phone, you just find guy talk messages between me and my friends. And it's like, I hope that's true. I really hope that's true. He gives me doubt in some of the things that he says and does. It comes across as though he's being very performative. They spoke about religion and wanting to raise their children with religion as it provides a source of discipline. And then they spoke about sort of, spanking their children and stuff. And then it went into sexual talk, which I don't quite understand why all their chat has to be very flirty, very sort of cross almost to the line of what is appropriate on TV and what's not. And so that part I didn't get. And then you had him question her about sort of sexuality in regards to how would you feel if your child came out as gay. She was very vague about it. I don't think she's very accepting of it. She ended up saying that towards the end she might say yes to it, but she would have a lot of questions. She wouldn't be the first person to jump on board. So I don't know how that comes across as a couple. I question whether this is the right thing for him and whether she is the right partner for him. He spoke about his mom saying that he went through a phase where he was depressed and his mom questioned his sexuality. And for a while, he had to bring girls home and sort of feel like he had to make out to confirm that he is not gay. And it's like, there's a lot of prejudice on both sides. That's the impression that I get. Annie then went on a date with Brandon. She said, she was worried. There is concern about what decision to make in regards who do you pick, because she has two connections. Nick has got two connections, and we haven't seen Brandon's other choice, because I always was under the impression that when you get to the final days, you have to whittle it down to two. And I have a feeling that there's always the one person who's shown as being desperate and that doesn't have another connection. There was concern about the decision. There was talk about life as a couple. Where do they see themselves? Do they see themselves in the suburbs, or do they see themselves in town? Do they see themselves? What sort of house would they have? What door would they have? And it seemed more serious as compared to her conversation with Nick. So I thought, oh, this sounds promising, because her issue, and his issue with Brandon, was that he wasn't very supportive. He wasn't very sort of affirming or reassuring towards her. So for her, this is something that she was doubtful whether he was the right partner for her. We then have Calibra have a conversation with Casey, and Casey is saying, I have to tell you something about her ex, and she was talking about her ex and how he told her, he could always have her back anytime he wanted, or he knew what to say or do to get her back at any choice. And it's like, and you think this is the guy that you should be entertaining? If someone said that to me, I would completely block them and avoid them, even if it means moving town. I would, because I don't want someone playing in my face. I don't have time for that. So for her to say this and then go on a date with Patrick and have this conversation, I was side-eyeing her more than I was side-eyeing Patrick. I think Patrick was doubtful, and she realized that Patrick was doubtful. This is why she became desperate and started begging him to pick her, because she spoke about her ex and said, and first she asked Patrick, how did you come about to be on the show? Because Patrick had asked her, did you watch Love is Blind before you came on? And she said, well, there was a dating show that reached out to me, and my ex, I was dating him at the time, and he told me to sign up for it, go, and he could always have me back after the show ended. And so Patrick asked, so this time what happened? And he said, well, he said, he was okay with me coming. And it's like, why would you have stayed? I agree with Patrick. Why would you have stayed with him if he told you to go on a dating show while you're in a couple? That tells you that he doesn't take you seriously. He doesn't. He wants to use you for the clout. So if you go on the show, then he can turn around and say, but she is dating me, and he gets clout through you. And so the idea that you would continue to be in this relationship with him doesn't make sense. I don't understand why she would think that was appropriate. Patrick asked her, why didn't you break up with him? I didn't quite get a concrete answer to say this is why I didn't break up with him, or this is why I continue to see him. Instead, she pivoted and started being very sexual in her talk, sort of trying to entice him, telling him about what she would do to him and stuff. And it's like, I don't understand. We're on a show where we're supposed to get to know each other's character, the person that makes you who you are, and you are talking about sex. Make it make sense. What in that tells you that this is what I wanted? It sounded more like phone sex than anything else, and so I didn't get why she felt the need to be that thirsty and that desperate. You then had Mike go on a date with Megan, and they were talking about tattoos, and he said, he doesn't have any tattoos. They were very flirty. They were sort of, well, you had Mike sort of mock Jordan's car, and it's like, I don't understand what his beef with Jordan is. Is he that intimidated that he has to constantly bring him down? He did try and talk about Jordan's child at one point, and now he's talking about Jordan's car. I don't understand it. There was sexual talk as well, and it's like, are people running out of stuff to say, or are they trying to put production off from recording them? Is this why they're bringing in the sexual innuendos? I didn't quite get it. There was Megan obviously saying that, she's dated someone who was very rich and they treated her like nothing, and she dated someone who was younger than her and wasn't that well off, and she's now looking for someone who's sort of in between. And she says because of the wealth that she's accrued over the years, she feels like people question why she's single, looking the way she does and having the finances that she does. And it's like, maybe it's your character, love. Maybe it's your character. From that date, she then went on a date with Jordan and was talking about, tattoos. She said she had tattoos as a teen, but she's since had them removed. Jordan was very vague about his tattoos as well. Then you had her go on about this diabetes thing. You're talking about, oh, my dad had diabetes as a minor, and so, I don't know whether my dad, this is his way of sort of bringing you into my life and wanting me to help your son. And it's like, what has you looking after your dad when you were struggling with his diabetes got to do with this man's son? This man has been looking after his son with his ex for a while before you came into the picture. They haven't asked you for your help, so why make it seem like you're God's gift to them? You are here to resolve whatever issues they had. I didn't get that part, and I didn't quite understand it. So I didn't understand why she felt the need to bring that up. Obviously, there was a worry that what will happen, how will they sort of become a blended family? And it's like, I don't know. Megan W, I think, is just there to be on TV. That's it. Nick then went on a date with Katie and he said he's worried that he has two connections and is conflicted in who he's going to choose. And Katie, on her part, was saying to him, I feel like you love bombed me because you told me you loved me, and now you're sort of questioning whether I am the right person for you. Why would you say you love me if you are going to turn around and question it? And it's like, I personally don't understand the two of them. I really don't. I feel like they are just sort of going through the motions just because they want to be on TV and they're looking for clout and they're looking for something to say, because it didn't make sense why they were going on. I feel like Nick didn't expect to land anyone. And so this is why he was telling the girls what they wanted to hear in order to keep them kin. And then now he's getting towards the end. He's looking for the most likely candidate for who he could sort of sell his snow to. And so this is why he was sort of having this back and forth with Kate. And it's like, I don't get it. I understand her saying, you are minimizing my feelings. They spoke about religion, and she said she's never been religious and she never will. And Nick used this as an excuse to say, well, you never told me that you were never religious before. You said you only stopped being religious after your mom's illness. So if you're saying you can't be religious, then we can't be together. And it's like, this man wanted to break up with her. He knew he was never going to be serious about her. So he wanted to break up with her and was just waiting for the opportunity. And the moment she said she wasn't religious, he turned around and said no. So he then broke up with her and she was devastated. She was really crying because she couldn't understand how he went from I love you to suddenly saying, oh, we've reached the end of the road. And just like, yeah, I get it. And I get why she's upset. She then went to the ladies' room and was crying and was being consoled by Ali because she was saying, I don't understand how we've gone from I love you to suddenly us breaking up. He was being consoled by Anton. He was sort of saying, she's saying she's not religious and I can't have someone in my life who doesn't believe in that, more or less. And it's like, I don't know. You then had Nick and Annie go on a date. He said he chose her. He told her that he broke up with his other connection. And so Annie's sort of now saying, I don't know how to feel because, more or less implying that she now has to break up with her other connection. She now has to break up with Brandon. And it's like, Brandon wasn't all in on Annie until the very end because I think he knew she really liked him. And so he was keeping her at arm's length and was just giving her barely enough to keep her hooked. And so now that Nick has come in with the pressure, this is why she's now sort of thinking of breaking up with him. Do I think it was a good idea to break up with Brandon? I don't think so. I really don't. They did have sexual talk again with Nick, and this is what they seem to spend most of their time doing. Because I have a feeling all they're going to do is they're going to meet each other face to face, have the physical intimacy, and then that's the end of the road. I can't predict that. I can predict it. So Brendan, on his part, then went on a date with Annie, and Annie was saying, we don't have serious chats. I don't think it could work between the two of us. I don't see our she was sort of saying, I don't see us aligning in the future. And he sort of gave affirmations, but I think it was too little too late because he was being standoffish, thinking that she was hooked and she would continue to sort of come after him. So the idea that she suddenly came in was very dismissive and decided that this was the end of the road. This is not something that he was expecting. Am I surprised that she wanted to break things off with her? No. I think she wanted someone who came across as obsessed with her, and the moment she got that from Nick, she was done with Brandon. She was ready to pack up sticks and go. So you then had Brandon go into the guys' lounge and he's busy confiding in Nick and somebody else, and he's busy saying, She says she's going with someone else. And Nick then said, I'm not certain about my choice. She's not my usual type, but I feel like we have a lot in common. And it's like Nick has been staying close to this man to try and get the inside scoop. The same way that, you had Mike staying close to Brandon and trying to find out what was going on there. This is what has happened. And sadly, she doesn't seem to understand what's going on. So you then had Patrick go on a date with Casey, and there was a chat. I think like Patrick is coming across as someone who's just going to go with whatever's left because what he wanted wasn't available. Because I don't understand how he can go from his connection with Annie and suddenly leave that to suddenly go with Casey. Yes, Annie, it was taken out of his hands, but still, he could have left and then met her in the real world and seen if it was going to work or not. So anyway, you had Casey say she woke up and she was very nervous. Patrick on his part is saying he's worried it's too good to be true. They both said they loved each other. He proposed and she accepted. And then they went on to this spiel that, she's very accepting and they are going to have children and their children are going to be mixed race and they're going to be, pro athletes and stuff. And it's like, Patrick, I think, just wanted someone who was going to accept him. And because this woman accepted him, this is why he's willing to go with this connection. I don't think it's any stronger than his connection with Anne, but I think he's going to take it because he really won. We then have Anne go on a date. I think she thought she was going on a date with Nick and he was going to propose. So to suddenly walk into the pods and find Brendan there and find him sort of spilling out his guts and how he loves her and how he cares for her and how he sees a future and he thinks Nick is a mistake. And it's like, you don't need to do that. If she likes you, she likes you. If she doesn't, she doesn't. That's it. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 3. Bye everyone.